Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast designed to help you learn from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators so that you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this podcast, Roddy. I'm delighted you've chosen to join us in this episode. In this episode, we're talking about the importance of connecting, building rapport, connecting with your audience, building a connection with your audience, whether that's one person sat in front of you or whether it's a small group or a large group, live, virtually, it doesn't matter. Connecting is a great principle when it comes to communicating, probably the most important principle there is that you can learn. Now, in the first episode, we talked about fear and how that's where you want to start. If you have any kind of anxiety with your speaking, you want to start by addressing your fear and building confidence, even unshakable self-confidence. Then we talked about the importance of the audience. That's where you want to start. The person or the people in front of you, they're the most important people in the room. And so you need to start by understanding who they are and how you can help them. Now, the next most important thing you can do. You see, there's an order here. Everything we do is carefully planned. There's an order here because the next most important thing you can do is connect with the person or the people in front of you. Connecting. And so we're going to talk about connecting generally. This will be like an introduction session, really. We'll come back to this in later episodes, but we're going to do an introduction into connecting, the importance of connecting, and then four approaches, really, that you can get better at connecting. Now, don't forget to download the resources that accompany the podcasts, maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge, and you can download your cheat sheet. All right, let's talk about, before we dig into the approaches, let's talk a little bit about connecting, why it's important. So John wrote a whole book on connecting. Everyone Communicates If You Connect. It's a great book, and there's 5 practices, 5 principles, loads of great stuff just on connecting. The whole book just on connecting. You might want to get that book if you want to dig into this in more detail. But then more recently, he wrote another book called The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And in this book, Chapter 7, just one of the 16 chapters is on connecting. But in that chapter, right at the beginning, he says this is by far the most important idea in the entire book. This idea of connecting is the most important idea in the whole book. So connecting is very important. It's job number 1, John says. Connecting is job number 1. It's the first and most important thing that we can focus on when we're communicating with an audience. So it's more important than content. It's more important than our delivery. But what is connecting? When we're talking about connecting, some of you are thinking, stop saying connecting, like I understand what you mean, and tell me what you mean. Tell me what it is. Well, connecting is like the difference between, we start out a little judgy like this when we meet people for the first time, don't we? Very often. We're a little aloof, we're standoffish, and then gradually maybe we warm up, maybe we lean in, and we're somewhat interested in what they're going to say. So that kind of softening and leaning in and paying attention, that's connecting. This is not connected. And this is more connected. So we want to try and, like Les Brown says, disengage the ego. We want to disengage the ego. Lots of great speakers use humor to do that. It's very disarming, isn't it? We lean in when we're having fun. So another way of thinking about it is the audience needs to feel like they know, like, and trust us. They need to feel like they know, like, and trust us. And there's an order there if you think about it. No, first of all, they need to get to know us. Then they can decide if they like us or not. And then they can decide to trust us. If they don't get to know us, they can't like us. And then they can't trust us because who are they trusting? They don't know. So authenticity is important, which is good news in itself. You don't have to pretend to be anyone else. You just need to be you at your best. So an authentic you is better than a pretending to be perfect you at your best. So connecting is very important. It's job number 1. In the last episode, when we were talking about the audience, we talked about the speaker with a message for the audience. Those 3 kind of key principles that Aristotle identified all those years ago. Speaker with a message for the audience. And we said, who's the most important? Well, it's the audience, because they decide how well you did in your attempt to influence in your communication. The audience decides. It's not about you saying it. You may say a load of great stuff, but if they don't get it, it doesn't matter. So they are the most important people in the room. They're the most important because they decide how well you did. Well, they also decide before that whether to even let you in, whether they're even going to listen to what you're saying. Because I think by default, we can all agree, And this is not just other people, this is you too, and me, all of us. We're all a little judgy at first. We're all a little judgy. So connecting is the first thing, because it kind of disengages that ego, lets that critical mind soften a little bit so that we can let the other person in, or the people in. So you can't connect when all you're doing is thinking about yourself, when it's all about you. You can't connect. It has to be about them. We have to focus on them so they get that feeling, so they want to let us in. So really it's about serving them, isn't it? It's about adding value to them. If it's all about you, if you're thinking about you, then you're thinking about what you can get from the situation, what you can take from the situation. If you think that it's about impressing them, you want to really feel like you did a great job and they're looking up at you and clapping and giving you a standing ovation saying, oh, very impressive, very impressive. Actually, that creates a gap between you and them. Connecting is the opposite of that. Connecting is closing the gap. Connecting is I'm just like you, not I'm much better than you. Now, I know listening to this, some of you were like, if I impressed the audience, I would take that. I would take that. Over bombing and looking stupid in front of everyone, I'd definitely take impressing the audience. Well, of course you would, but you don't want to leave it there, because it's not just about impressing them as an end in itself, is it? It's about connecting with them so that you can influence them, you can add value to them, so you can help them if that's what they want. So impressing, when you think about it, that's what you can get from the situation. Connecting is about what you can give, how you can serve. So when you think about it like this, it's easy to see that connecting really is the foundation of influence, isn't it? And as John says, it's the primary foundation, because they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we need to communicate that we care. Of course, it's a lot easier if we do actually care. So we need to give that feeling. But then when they do know that we care, they do care how much we know. So we do need to then show that we know what we're talking about. We do have to not just connect, but also establish that credibility. If we're going to influence them, we need to be seen as somewhat of an expert or an authority in the area that we're looking to communicate with them. So you could say that connecting is the first layer, foundational layer of influence, then credibility, and then the message that you're sharing with them needs to be relevant to them. So a relevant message would be number 3. Now, we're going to come back to this in the next episode, actually, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about the message. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to credibility as well. Really, we're focusing on how do we build that connection? How do we build that relationship with the people or person sat in front of us? Because it's so essential. It really is. Connecting works in every situation, every interaction. That's why connecting is priority number 1 when it comes to communication. All right, let's look at 4 different approaches, I suppose, four different ways that you can go about building a better connection with the people that you're communicating with. The first one is to find common ground, connect on common ground. That's to connect on common ground, you need to find common ground. Identify the common ground to connect upon. One way, if you smile and you're friendly and you're a nice person when you meet people, they probably think that they're nice people too, so you're both nice people, you've got something in common. That's probably the easiest way to experiment and see if there's some common ground, isn't it? And it's much more welcoming when you're smiling and you're nice, you're letting your personality out in a positive way. See, we tend to make sense of the world in groups. We identify with certain groups and we're in that group. It's part of our identity. And then we see other people and other groups and we're like, oh no, that's them, because we're not in that group. They're in that group, we're in this group. So we make sense of the world that way. If we can get that feeling that we're in the same group, it's us, not them, then it's easier to connect with those people, isn't it? And in order to do that, we've all got differences and we've all got a lot in common. We've got far more in common, actually, than we have differences, but it really depends where we encourage them to focus. If they focus on the differences, if we focus on the differences, then we're both going to feel like it's us and them, and we're not in the same group, and there's no connection. In fact, we're to be avoided. But if we focus on what we have in common, then it's us and us, my kind of people. She's my kind of people. She's a BNP Paribas type of person. She's a Microsoft type of person. We've all heard things like that, haven't we? Because we see the differences. Because we see what we have in common. We see the similarities, not the differences. Emotion can be great common ground for us to connect. Imagine I'm trying to help you overcome your fear of speaking. And I'm saying, stand up and I'm going to film you and then we'll go through it together. And you're like, I can't do it. You don't understand. I can't do it. And I say, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. I felt exactly the same way when I started. It was awful. But I found that I could do it when I put one foot in front of the other. And I let go of trying to do it perfectly and just focused on doing it. Gradually, I got better. And I think you'll find the same thing. So we can connect on that common emotion, on that common ground of fear. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. You see how we're connecting on the emotion of fear. Mistakes also is great common ground. Failure is common ground. Again, it's the opposite of impressing. Larry Wilson said, they'll respect you for your wins, of course. They'll respect you for your successes, but that's more like getting towards impressing, isn't it? But he said they'll love you for your failures. They'll respect you for your wins, but they'll love you for your failures. What a difference. So they'll love you for the mistakes you've made because we all make mistakes. We know we do. It's very human. So humanness is great common ground. A number of years ago, I went to the Dominican Republic for country transformation with John Maxwell and the team and about 150 Maxwell Leadership Certified Team coaches. And we went there for country transformation at the invitation of the president. And each day you go out and you never know where you're going. You're going to a company, or it might be a bank or a church or an organization or a government department of some kind. And if you're not a Spanish speaker, typically you'll have a translator with you, and you go out and you go through this process of teaching transformation, certain values that are being instilled in the country. It's a fascinating process to go through. Well, I went out and they were English speakers, so I didn't need a translator. So I got there on my own at this recruitment company. And it was, as soon as I walked in, I could tell it was a very young company. It was open planned. It was everyone there was kids, compared to me, middle-aged in my 50s in a suit and tie standing there, and they were all wearing like baggy trousers and, graphic tees. And I got there a little early, so they said, well, you're going to have to wait. And so I sat down on the sofa. I had about like 20 minutes in the waiting room, and I'm just kind of watching these people walking around. I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to connect with these people? How am I going to connect with them? But they give me a goodie bag. And so I looked in the goodie bag, and there was a baseball cap, which I always love getting baseball caps. And there was a T-shirt, a branded T-shirt for the organization. And so I'm looking at them all kind of very casually dressed, and I've got a suit and tie. So I went into the restroom, took my jacket off, took my shirt off, put this T-shirt on. But it was really tight. So I thought, no. So I'm stretching it to try and make it look a little bit more comfortable. And it was a bit better. I thought, well, it's better than a shirt and tie anyway, so I'll wear this. Went out. Then somebody came out and got me and said, right, we're ready now. And there was 3 big tables of about 10, 15 people on each table in the middle of this open plan office, and glass offices around the outside, lots of people moving around. And they're all sitting there probably most of them under 25. And they're all sitting there looking at me. And I said, how many of you know what we're talking about today? And a couple of them put their hands up. I said, how many of you are busy? And frankly, you've got something else you'd rather be doing. It's okay. You can put your hands up. And they're like, half of them put their hands up. I said, don't you just hate that? When you get called and your boss tells you you've got to go to a meeting and they're not going, but you need to go. And there's so many other things that you need to finish so that you can get away on time. And now you've got to spend 2 hours doing something that is, a complete waste of time as far as you're concerned. I said, I've been to so many presentations like that over the years in different corporations that I've worked for. But let me tell you, this is not like that. This is not like that. You're going to love this, because this week I'm one of 150 coaches that have flown in from all around the world to be in your country for this week, because something very special is happening this week. We've all paid our own way from all over Europe, Australia, all over America, Canada, South America. We've all paid our own way to be here. We've all paid for our hotel accommodation and meals while we're here, because we want to be here for this week of transformation. And for every coach that's here, there's a translator from the Dominican Republic, one of you, who's donated their time as well to be part of this special week. And over this week, we'll probably train about 15,000 people who will then go on and teach others how to do the transformation process. So you're part of something really, really special this week. And that's why I say this is unlike any other presentation that you've been to. Well, by the time I finish, they're like clapping and standing ovation. We haven't even started yet, because now we were part of something. We were united behind a common goal of transforming their country. We were all in it together. So uniting behind a common goal is a great way to bring people together and connect. Similarly, for the last 20 years, I've been doing speaker training workshops with people, and a lot of people don't really like the idea of standing up and speaking in front of other people. So it's possible then to be connected against a common enemy. United behind a common goal, united against the common enemy. It's very galvanizing, isn't it? Brings people together. So whether you enjoy it or not, it's a heightened emotional experience, and it really has a powerful bonding effect, really powerful bonding effect. The things that people love is also a great way to connect with them through the things that they love, not the things that you love. I remember seeing this firsthand back when we lived in England. It was about 8 or 9 years ago. Auntie Shirley had come over with my mum for Sunday lunch. We're sitting there watching the kids play in the garden. And our daughter Eliza came in. She would have been about 9 or 10 at the time, but she's brain injured, and so she's developmentally delayed. She would have had the mind of about like a 3-year-old probably at the time. So she comes in. She loved bouncing on the trampoline. And so she came in and said to Auntie Shirley, come on the trampoline, come on the trampoline. Now, I'm like, Eliza, no, Auntie Shirley can't go on the trampoline, because she was over 80 at the time. She'd had both her hips done. And so the last thing we wanted was Auntie Shirley to try and go on the trampoline. So I said, Auntie Shirley can't go on the trampoline, darling. And she looked a little bit upset. So Auntie Shirley stood up. She said, I'll come on the trampoline with you, dear. And she kind of shuffled out and went into the garden, scrambled up onto the trampoline. Eliza's bouncing in the middle of the trampoline with a big smile on her face, and Auntie Shirley's holding her hands, probably very uncomfortable, but with a big smile on her face as well. And she bounced with Eliza on the trampoline for a good 5 minutes or more before they came in. Well, when they came in, Eliza was like a limpet stuck to Auntie Shirley. Auntie Shirley was her new best friend, because she transformed their relationships from nothing to her being her best friend in just a few minutes by doing the thing that Eliza loved more than anything else. The way to a person's heart really is through the things that they love. So that common ground can be the things that they love, whether you enjoy it or not. Would Auntie Shirley have preferred to just sit there and do a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku? Of course. But she made the effort to go and do something that it was obvious that Eliza really wanted to do. It meant a lot to her. And that built their relationship, transformed their relationship in just a few moments. So common ground is a great way to connect. Common ground, common goals, common enemies, common feelings, common passions, our common humanity, they're all great ways to connect with the person or the people in front of us. Now, if we're talking about finding common ground and doing the things that they love, how do we know? How do we know what it is that they love? Well, that's the next principle. We have to find out. We have to find out. We need to take responsibility for connecting. It's not going to happen on its own. So I think Auntie Shirley was a great example of like a master connector in her 80s. Job number one is connecting. She focused on that. And now, in fact, Eliza came to her and told her what she wanted to do. She just needed to make the effort. Even though it was uncomfortable, even though it was inconvenient, she made the effort to go and do that thing. Found the common ground and built on that common ground. Now, it's in our own best interests to do that, if you think about it, to go to them, to find that common ground, because that is the foundation that influence is going to sit upon, which is something that we're all interested in, isn't it? If we stand off, if we don't make the effort, we stand off, then we seem cold and indifferent. If we're waiting to see what they're like before we show our hand, we seem cold and indifferent, because actually it is cold and indifferent, isn't it? That's how it seems, and that's really what it is. But it doesn't matter whether you're actually a nice person inside if you're keeping it quiet. It's not how you actually feel, it's how they perceive you feel that's important. I was on a one-to-one mentoring call with John about 8 years ago now, I think. And we were talking about connecting. And I said, well, I think I'm a people person, John. I feel like I enjoy speaking to people and finding out about them. And he says, well, everyone is, Roddy. As long as someone comes up to them, shakes their hand with a big smile and says, hi, I'm John. What's your name? What are you doing here? If somebody greets you like that, then we respond in like kind. He said the difference is connectors go first. Connectors go first. They don't wait. They go first. So if we want to be better at connecting, we go first. We go to them. We don't hang back and wait for them to come and find out all about us. We take the initiative. We go to them. The way to a person's heart really is through the things that they love, but we need to find out what they are. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to travel in Southeast Asia. In fact, about 35 years ago. Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? Well, I was there for 8 months and I met loads and loads of people. And it was very interesting to me that no matter what my first impression was, once I got to know them, they were all nice. They were all nice. Once we understand them, once we find out something about them, everyone's nice when you get to know them, pretty much, aren't they? With very few exceptions. It's not that they're not nice, it's that we don't find out about them. So we need to make that effort to go first. And we'll probably be surprised just how wonderful people are when we get to know them. Jim Rohn says, start with where people are before you try and take them where you want them to go. So we have to go to them, first of all. We have to go to them. See, for a relationship to build, someone has to start it. Someone has to start the relationship. When the relationship is started, then we can build on that. So it doesn't matter who starts it, then we can build. So why not take the responsibility to be the person that starts the relationship off? By making that initial contact. Connectors go first. Now, even if you mess it up, the most clumsy attempt at introducing yourself to someone, meeting them and talking to them, is better than nothing at all. Because as soon as you're over that, then the relationship can build. You have to start the relationship before you can build it. You can't build it if it never starts. So get it in and make it better. That's a great kind of rule for entrepreneurs, isn't it? If you've got an idea for a product, get it in as quickly as you can and then make it better. I encourage people all the time when they're putting together a presentation, get to the first draft and then make it better. Get to the first draft, then make it better. And it's the same with relationships. Start the relationship, then you can make it better. You're not going to do it perfectly first time. So I think the best thing we can do is take 100% of the responsibility for the relationship. Go first, go to them, start the relationship, and then treasure it and nurture it, and it will get better and better and better. All right, step 3 then, believe in them. Believe in them. Whether it's one person or 10,000 people, believe in them. And it's not enough actually just to believe in them. It can't be a passive pursuit. It needs to be active. So we need to show them that we believe in them. They need to feel that we believe in them. So it's not enough just to believe. We need to show them. We can show them we believe in them by encouraging them. So believe in them and encourage them. Believe in them and encourage them. And when people believe in us, we lean into them because we like people that encourage us. So we need to feel like they believe in us for it to work. It's not enough for them to believe in us. We have to feel it. And encouraging is a great way to do that. We love people who encourage us. If we feel encouraged, we lean into people. We love that. We love people that believe in us and show that they believe in us. We lean into that. I think there's roughly, broadly, 2 different categories of people. People who are life-giving and people who are life-draining. We all try and avoid people who are life-draining, don't we? And we all lean into people who are life-giving. We want to be around people who are life-giving. We connect and enjoy staying connected with people who are life-giving. So encouraging is a great way to do that. But if you think about it, it's believing and encouraging. Because if we believe in somebody but we don't encourage them, then it's passive. They probably never know that we believe in them. And if we encourage them but we don't believe in them, then that's inauthentic, isn't it? So we need both. We need to encourage them and believe in them. Then we can appreciate them, we can inspire them, we can affirm them, encourage them to become more. John says that within the first 30 seconds when he speaks, he looks for a way to encourage the audience. Put a 10 on their head, see them at their very best. Expect great things because you see them at their best. Les Brown often says, there's something special about you, there's greatness in you, and he believes it. And I think it's true of all of us, isn't it? There is greatness in all of us. We just need to try and get more of it out. So seeing people at their best and expecting great things changes things. Now, we're not pretending that people are better than they are. We're not pretending. Seeing them at their best actually helps them to become more. Goethe, the German philosopher, said, when we see a person as they are, when we're realistic like that, see them as they are, we only make them worse. But if we see them as they could be, then we help them to become all that they can be. It makes a difference. We're not just pretending that they're better than they are. It actually helps them grow, or it actually helps them shrink, one or the other. We choose. But even more than this, we love people that see us at our best and expect great things from us. So we lean into that. And so it's a great way to connect as well. See, the truth is we don't look out at an objective world and respond to it. We create it to a very large extent. We don't look out at objective people, oh, they're just like that, and then respond to them. We help create them, bring out the best in them or bring out the worst in them. We have that kind of creative role. And it's the same with relationships. We create them and then we build them and make them better. So we have a large degree of autonomy here. We can change things, not just look out at them the way they are. And when people treat us like that, we lean into it. So it's a great way of connecting. Probably the best example of a connector I've ever seen is my dog Teddy, who's a golden retriever, and you can imagine super friendly. When you meet him, he's wagging his tail. In fact, he's wagging his whole body. He's delighted to see you. And people tend to respond to him. Not just me, that anyone. If you came to our house, he would greet you like that. He'd be thrilled to see you. He'd wag his tail and you'd probably smile and pet him. We respond to the way that Teddy treats us. Now, we also used to have a cat, and people didn't respond to the cat in the same way because the cat was a little bit miserable. It was nice when you got to know it, but most people never took the time because it would just kind of walk off, thought it was better than everyone. We knew that it thought it was better than us. We don't like that. Teddy meets you with a smile, meets you with joy, sees you at your best, and people 9 times out of 10 respond to that. John was talking at the Georgia Dome many years ago to about 70,000 people. He said he was sitting on the edge of the stage looking out and talking to these 70,000 people. And afterwards, so many people came up to him and said, I felt like you were talking just to me. You know that there's a connection when people say, I felt like you were talking just to me. I feel like I know you from listening to you. You know you're connected. You're just like me. You know you're connected. Now, in the last episode, when we were talking about the audience, we talked about this idea that the audience is a concept. A concept is not really a thing that you're going to connect with. You're going to connect with the individuals within that concept, within the audience. One emotional human being, one-to-one, one at a time. You're going to connect with all of them, one-to-one. That's how they come up afterwards and say, I felt like you were talking just to me. One emotional human being to another. We want them to get that feeling that we care. They feel like they know, like, and trust us because of the way we've interacted with them. So step 4 then, give them 100% of your attention. Now, a great test for this is when you walk into a room, are you one of those people that says, here I am. Congratulations, I've arrived. I'm blessing you with my presence. Are you one of them? Here I am. Or are you, oh, there you are. And you go over and speak to the people in there. Is it about them or is it about you? Is it about what you can get from it or is it about what you can give? Do you need all their attention? Do you need it? Do you need all their attention? Or are you going to give all of your attention to someone? Now, I'm not talking about one person all the time. It only takes a few minutes, actually, to really create that connection. So if you want to be a great connector, give other people 100% of your time. Take an interest in them. Ask them questions and listen to the answers. Actually, listen to the answers. Oprah said that everyone has a need to feel seen, heard, and understood. We want to be seen, heard, and understood. Now, it's not enough for you to see them. They need to feel seen. It's not enough for you to hear them. They need to feel heard. It's not enough for you to understand them. They need to feel understood. So it's active. We need to convey that. Their perception is what's important. I love the way John talks about the importance of this and the importance of not being misunderstood. He said, when I'm listening to people, often I'll take my phone out and take notes. But I don't want them thinking that I'm doing something else that's more important. So I'll be taking notes and I'll say to them, I'm taking notes on my phone while you're speaking because this is important. He doesn't want them to think, oh, John's texting somebody else and just looking at me every now and again and smiling. It's too important. So he gives you 100% of his attention for the time that he's engaging with you. And when John's speaking to you, you feel it. You know he's giving you 100% of his attention. He'll use your name very often, a very simple technique, if you like, but it works very well, doesn't it? I heard John talk about this when we were traveling in a green room in between events, and he said, the importance of using people's name, I don't know why people don't do this more often. It's a bit of effort because you need to learn their name. You need to use some kind of technique, perhaps, in order to remember their name. You need to learn how to pronounce it correctly. But then, it's like they feel like $1 million when you remember their name and use their name. It says that I value you. Very, very powerfully. This is something that everyone can do, but most people forget to do, isn't it? So that's a bit of an introduction to connecting. As I said, we're going to come back to this. The key thing to remember is connecting is job number one. But most of all, it's a learnable skill. It's a learnable skill. So we don't have to be born a people person. We can learn to be a people person, a much better people person at least. I know you've met people where you feel like you just hit it off. You clicked. You got on like a house on fire. Felt like you'd known each other for years. Well, that's a learnable skill. You can learn to feel like you've clicked. You can learn to hit it off. You can learn to get on like a house on fire. And these simple principles of connecting is one way to get better at that. So step one, we looked at finding common ground to connect upon. Step two, we talked about taking responsibility for connecting. You go to them and you go first. Step three, we talked about the importance of believing in them and encouraging them. Don't keep it quiet. Show that you believe in them. And step number four, we talked about giving them 100% of your attention for the time that you're interacting with them. 100% of your attention. John Maxwell says that connecting, really, when you think about it, it isn't just learning more skills to be a better communicator. It's about becoming the type of person other people want to let in. They choose to let you in because of the type of person that you seem to be. Remember, they choose to let you in. So be the type of person that they want to connect with, that they want to let in. And don't leave it to chance. Take responsibility for that. And you can become a great connector and a great communicator. Now, in the next episode, we're going to talk about what are you going to say? We're going to be talking about content and your message. But before then, don't forget to download our companion guide. You can go to maxwellleadership.com, the Speaker's Edge, to do that. Communication, I'm convinced, is one of the most important skills that you can develop. It will do more for your business, more for your career, more for your self-confidence, more for you in every area practically than any other skill you can develop. And when it comes to communicating, connecting is probably the most important skill that you can develop, and it is a learnable skill. So keep going, keep moving forwards, keep growing, and you'll learn to master your message so that you can inspire your audience every time you speak. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. God bless.